emailed some of the hallway discussions, there's been an underlying current of another issue, and that is what authority under home rule can municipalities exert over what's essentially private property, groundwater. Under the Growth Management Act, of course, you can regulate a number of things providing you get together a comprehensive plan that's consistent with the Growth Management Act and you enact ordinances that are enforceable underneath that. But a lot of towns who have no growth to manage have never really gotten around to codifying the authority that they could use to give a predictable business atmosphere to a company that wants to come in. What a lot of the smaller towns would like to be able to do is to go vote at town meeting and just turn down a large project without actually developing a body of law that allows them to regulate these entities. This was, I think, a good faith attempt of the department to say, okay, if you can use some of state authority under NERPA in order to regulate these entities, providing you go ahead and do the rest of the body of law that you should have done probably in the last 20 years under the Growth Management Act. So a lot of the discussion is from the smaller towns and the activists on the water issue is how can we not bother with all that other stuff and just be able to vote no against what a business wants to do with its own property in this town? Sooner or later, we're going to have to resolve that question, too.
And I just want to point out, too, that I believe in ordinances and regulation at the local level. It's a very organic process, and it comes up through, and we all know it takes often much longer to get ordinances passed than it does sometimes to get bills passed through the legislature. I mean, sometimes this is a year-long process. But I think the tools are there for the towns, and I think it's good that we work on this issue. But in addition to that, I think we also have to recognize that even though there are many people on one side of this issue, there are people on the other side of the issue too, and we have to be cognizant of those individuals as well. So my thought is more in keeping with Senator Smith's, is that we should figure out a vehicle to review this. Unfortunately, I don't think we have time to advertise for a public hearing right now based on our restraints here at the legislature. But it's not like there aren't tools available to municipalities to act before we come back next year. But in addition to that, I just want to go back to the original bill. If I recall correctly, it sounded like Representative Hill's bill, people didn't necessarily object to the terms in the bill, including advocates along with industry. And Susan, if you could correct me, am I right in that assumption?
Let me just.
Representative Welsh?
Yeah, there was not much.
We had two testimonies that were positive. Well, one being Mr. Fisk, and 1, 2, 3, 4 that were neither for nor against. So we didn't have anyone testifying against that bill. Also, I mean, I'd be curious what Maine Municipal Association thought of this.
In my question, I was going to ask Susan that as well. Can we can task the department to report back to us. Mm-hmm. But Maine Municipal Association should be a significant player in those conversations. We necessarily can't write them into the resolve. Or we could look, well, of course we could. We could make them.
You can direct DEP to discuss,
municipalities.
Municipalities or the association itself. Okay. Yes. So
if we agree on Representative Hill's bill, the original bill, and then put a resolve at unallocated language at the end of it, directing the DEP to work with Maine Municipal Association to report back on potential ordinance issues, and I see Mr. Austin in the back of the room, we could revisit this next year and potentially enact legislation if needed on the ordinance side, because there were some very passionate speeches about home rule and ordinances and so forth, and potentially if Maine Municipal Association came to the table, that would, I think, assist us greatly. Would anyone object to that approach? Representative DeShane?
Thank you, Senator. In keeping with my philosophy, if for every report we make you do, we take away one. If you can go down the list and find one for us to kill, we'd entertain that.
However, I do presume that a lot of the work has been done on, maybe not. Mr. Fisk, I think we do need to ask a question. We have asked you to do a lot between now and next January or February, and the bill that we just passed is going to be a significant one. Are we At what point are you just going to say, no, we don't have the resources or the
Weeks
time, to complete these with the effort that should be dedicated?
I think I'm not reacting so much from resources. I think that what I heard in putting this amendment out there was it highlighted the range of testimony on these bills. And a number of the advocates said nothing should prohibit a town from being able to prohibit the extraction of water for